Blog Talk Radio.
TV party tonight! TV party tonight! TV party tonight! TV party tonight! We're gonna have a TV party tonight! Alright! We're gonna have a TV party, alright! Tonight! We got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews. Everybody's gonna hang out here tonight. All right. We'll pass out on the couch. All right. Tonight. We got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews. Don't talk about anything else. We don't wanna know. We're dedicated to our favorite shows.
And tonight our favorite show is The PowerPuff Girls, Season 1, from way back in 1998. Hello, folks. This is TV Party Tonight, and I am your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich, you know, your old pal Weezy. And as I said, we're doing something a little different tonight. We are, I have to go back and say, I've been talking now for a little while about how my daughter said on one of my wife's Posh videos that she's like, you shouldn't listen to my podcast. My podcast stinks. And I said, okay, why does my podcast stink? And my daughter said, well, you don't have enough girls on your podcast. So we're going to rectify that tonight. We're going to have one of our friends of the network, Alexisssissississssss, Hejna, will be joining us shortly. And way back at the beginning of the year, I threw it out there. I said, hey, I want to do I'm starting the show, sort of a conversion of what I had started last year, where we started looking at some Marvel TV shows, and Orange is the New Black. And I said, I kind of want to keep with this concept, so we're going to keep reviewing seasons of television shows, and hence TV Party Tonight. And so I threw it out there to people. I said, if there's a TV show that you think I should watch, that you want to come on and talk about, let me know. And believe it or not, I got a response from, again, friend of the network, Alexisssissississssss, Hejna, who late last year, joined us in our discussion on Long Road to Ruin of Harry Potter. And she threw out there the Powerpuff Girls. And I thought, that'll be fun. I mean, anytime I get to binge watch a television show with my kids, it's always a good time. And that's what we did this past weekend. My kids and I, we all watched the first season of the Powerpuff Girls. And my daughter decided that she liked Blossom the best. And my wife and I decided that we liked calling my son Mojo Jojo the best. For his part, seeing as there are no boys on the show, no boy superheroes, he decided that he was Buttercup because she wears green. And green means go. So I also think it was her less than sunny disposition that my son Jonas enjoyed. In any case, the kids loved the first season. I never got through the entire first season in its initial run. I would watch it occasionally on Cartoon Network, but I never got through every single episode. So this was the first time I got to watch the entire thing straight through, and I definitely have some thoughts on the subject. So we are going to Miss Alexisssississssss should be with us any moment now. Waiting for her to call in. I'm going to check in there, see how she's doing. So anyway, a little bit about the show. The Powerpuff Girls, if you don't know, if you're just tuning in because you listen to all the wonderful podcasts here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network, but you're not really familiar with the subject matter tonight. The Powerpuff Girls was an American animated television series created by animator Craig McCracken for Cartoon Network. Cartoon. The show centers on Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup, three Goyles with superpowers, as well as their father, the brainy scientist, Professor Utonium. Hang on. We have a time conflict. Forgot to mention to my guest that I didn't realize we were on two different time zones. Oopsie. Yeah, this happens. Anywho, brainy scientist, Professor Utonium, who all live in the fictional city of Townsville, USA. The girls are frequently called upon by the town's childlike and naive mayor to help fight nearby criminals using their powers. That's the summary for the show. All right, and we have our guest here, Alexisssissississssss. Welcome to TV Party Tonight.
Hey, don't you love when we forget that we're in two different time zones?
It's funny. Every time I advertise the show, I always make sure I put that Eastern Standard Time for that reason, because with friends all over the country and in some all over the world, this becomes an important detail, as we have discovered tonight.
Well, I hate to say it. I'm actually leaving tomorrow for a trip to Europe, so my mindset has not been on the Eastern Standard Time; it's been on Paris time. So, yeah.
We can certainly sympathize and understand that. If I were going to Paris tomorrow, if I were going to Paris at Epcot, my mind would be on that, not this show. So I get it. I understand.
Yeah.
But thank you for taking a few minutes out of your time preparing for your trip to waste it talking to me. I appreciate you.
Hey, absolutely. Happy to bring back my knowledge of Western animation to help you with your show. I love being a part of that.
And we love having you. Now, I was telling the listeners that you had thrown this idea out there when I left it open for people to, hey, if you wanted to talk about a TV show, what do you want to talk about? And you threw this out there, much to the chagrin of some of the other guys I podcast with, who went, "What the hell are you doing? Powerpuff Girls, whose idea was that?" Well, it was your idea. What made you want to talk about this? Why does this tickle your fancy so much?
Well, one of the reasons I want to talk about it actually is because I like to compare it to the Power Rangers, not Power Rangers, I'm looking at other stuff, the Powerpuff Girls that I grew up with and the recent reboot that we have seen on Cartoon Network, which a lot of people, that's when they hear Powerpuff Girls, that's what they think of. And I think it's important to talk about the differences, the styles, how it differs between Craig McCracken and Gendy Tartakovsky's amazing work on the show to the reboot, which, like I said, we'll get to that later, which obviously McCracken and Tartakovsky had no control over. So I think it's important to look at a show like that.
I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on it. I haven't actually watched the reboot yet. As I was saying, I watched this in its initial run hither and thither. If it happened to be on and I was watching Cartoon Network, I would watch it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a goofy and fun show. But I haven't watched I didn't watch it religiously then, and I haven't watched the reboot now. As I said, me and my kids marathon the entire first season this past weekend. So let's go ahead and get into that. Now, did you watch it religiously when it first appeared in 1998? Were you really into the show, or did you kind of find it later, watch it intermittently like I did?
I've got the whole thing on DVD. This was one of my favorite shows when I was younger. Absolutely loved it. I thought.
Which one did you identify with? Are you Blossom, Bubbles, or Buttercup?
Probably Buttercup. Let me put it this way. If you go from when I was that age, I was definitely Bubbles. A little older, I identify a little bit more with Buttercup. I don't think I ever really identify with Blossom that much.
My daughter totally thinks she's Blossom, but my daughter is also Flossy Pants, so that makes sense. My son, however, as I told the audience, my son decided he was Buttercup for a variety of reasons, and then just because we all have we all had to get in on the gimmick. My wife decided she was Bubbles, my wife is very, very, very Bubbles. And then I'm Professor Utonium, because why the hell not? All right, so what we're going to do here, I got the list of episodes in front of me, and there are some thematic things I definitely want to discuss, but there are some episode-by-episode things I also want to get into. The first thing, right off the bat, the first villain that they introduce you to is Mojo Jojo, which we now have great fun telling our son that, and he hates it, which makes it even better. Mojo Jojo, who I think is one of the funniest villains in the first season. But I'll tell you, after marathoning this, and I want to get your opinion on the matter, after marathoning this for 13 episodes in a weekend, I have to say, the 4 or 5 villains that they rotated without much variation, Mojo Jojo, the Gangrene Gang, him, and Fuzzy Lumpkins. That's the other one. So there were 4. They rotated just those 4, and occasionally they would bring on a new villain, but for the most part it was a rotation of those. I not that I got bored with it, but I was a little disappointed that there wasn't more variation in the villain throughout 13 episodes. Did that bother you at all, or when you ran through this, it wasn't even something that you noticed?
I think it's kind of first season syndrome that they're throwing a lot at the wall and seeing what sticks. There were a lot of villains that they used in the first season who never showed up. My favorite example is Roach Coach, because if you actually watch the opening animation when they do that little side scroll of the villains, Roach Coach is one of the prominent villains seen there, and he appears in one episode of the first season, and he is never seen again.
Yeah, I liked it. I love the idea of like a sentient cockroach controlling a robot and an army of other cockroaches. I thought that was great.
Yeah, and I really love the reaction. Bubbles is freaking out. Buttercup's like, please, let me squish him for the love of God. Please, let me kill him. And Blossom is trying to remember what Professor Utonium said. And I thought it was a really great little mix because I say when I was that younger, cockroaches scared the living hell out of me. So I would be Bubbles going, somebody kill it, somebody kill it, somebody kill it. Actually, I'm kind of feel that way. I see a spider on the wall. It's like, Andre, get out here and kill that thing.
Look, we call them palmetto bugs here because we don't want to call them roaches. But yeah, they are a thing. You have to deal with them here in Florida. As the bug guy told us, it was like, look, they've been in here since the dawn of time. They're going to be here long after humans are dead. They're going to get in your house. You just have to live with that. But we can push the fight back somewhat. But yes, having experienced this firsthand, that episode really hit home with us here in Florida. But as far as a villain goes, I was a little sad not to see him come back. The Amoeba Boys I could have lived without again, and I actually had to fast forward through the one with the glue because that was gross.
Oh yeah, that was a weird. Okay, I have seen little memes and stuff of like kids eating glue. I remember, I think it was a Bruce Almighty, there was a kid eating glue. And I remember seeing, and I was like, okay, I have heard of this phenomenon of children eating paste. I never saw that growing up. So it's like, so apparently there are children out there who eat paste. I have just never been privy to. Did you ever see a kid when you were little who liked to eat paste?
No. I know they existed. I've heard of such things. But as much as I would like to think I have a strong stomach, there are certain things I can't handle, and that would be one of them. So if there was a kid eating paste, I'm pretty sure I left the room, possibly the state.
I'm kind of laughing a little bit on the inside because now I am a jewelry designer, and I use Mod Podge for a good chunk of working within steps of the jewelry. And Mod Podge is essentially watered down Elmer's glue. And I think about the paste, like, kids actually ate this stuff? Oh, my God, because even the smell of that stuff makes me sick. Blech.
Yeah. One of my favorite villains in this is the woman who turns out to be Sedusa. She goes by I'm a Good Lady, which I think is hilarious.
Sedusa was interesting. They did bring her back a couple of times later in the season, but they used her very sparingly.
Yeah, I don't remember her at all in season 13. Season 1. They might have brought her back in other seasons, but this is the very first episode, and it's split in half. You have all the episodes are split in half, except for the finale, which we will definitely have to talk about. So you have the Monkey See, Doggy Do with Mojo, which is where we meet Mojo Jojo, who you don't get enough of his personality in this first one. Later on, where they kind of focused on him, and he has no eggs, and his breakfast is all screwed up, and you spend the entire episode with him and his funky speech patterns, is hilarious to me. That was one of those laugh out loud where like I had a rough time breathing. I was laughing so hard at it.
I could be wrong, but I always thought that Mojo Jojo was kind of a parody of bad translations of anime villains. He always seemed like a character that you would see on an 80s anime with like the world's worst translations for what the heck he was saying. Especially since he does actually speak with a very, not a strong, but a very definitive Japanese accent. So that's what I kind of always figured he was doing.
Yeah, and the show definitely mocks something of the anime culture throughout the show, which is what makes it funny in many cases. But the other thing I kept thinking was, and I don't know if they consciously did this or not, but he kept reminding me of Gorilla Grodd from the DC comics. You have this super intelligent, sentient ape always trying to prove itself. So,
that's actually a good theory, especially since Gorilla Grodd and many of his incarnations was seen with a helmet to amplify his mind control. So that actually makes a lot of sense. Don't know why I never thought of that.
We have Monkey See, Doggy Do is the first part. Again, it was where we all of our origin stuff is taken care of like a CW show. It's taken care of right in the credits. So we jump right into the action with the first episode. They take on Mojo Jojo. But the second half of the episode is, and I love the premise of this. And it's funny to me that they did it in the first episode. But you have this, single man, Professor Utonium, who made himself some daughters. And just as soon as you meet this fella, they've got him in an episode where he's looking for a good mother for these children. And it turns out she is manipulating him because she's really Sedusa, the thief. And I got a kick out of this episode. I have to say, I enjoyed the villain. I enjoyed the premise. The whole 9 yards there. How the kids were reacting to her. Like, you're grounded from going out and you're grounded from going out and fighting crime. I thought was hilarious.
It's not to mention it's a little bit of a stereotypical storyline. The single parent and the kids realize that there's someone who could potentially be our new mother. That storyline has been done to death, but it's still refreshing and it still works with the characters. I do love the opening scene where he meets, quote unquote, I'm a good lady, and he can't even speak. He's going, I, the whole time the girls are speaking for him, and he literally cannot stop saying, I. He's just lost. But again, that's what it has been done. And for the record, a later season, the girls would try this again with setting him up with another woman. But again, it's a cliche story, but I think it works. I think that when you have a storyline with a single parent household, they're gonna go do that at least once.
As they should. Again, there are only so many stories in the Naked City. It's all on how you play out that story that matters. Moving on to episode 2, we talked a little bit about Roach Coach, which I thought this was great. Again, because it's been a while since I've seen these, and some of these I hadn't seen at all. So I thought it was a nice little twist there that because it starts out, you think it's just a dirty old man that somehow has control over these roaches, but it's actually a sentient cockroach controlling a robot. But I think my favorite part of this was I'll tell you, there are episodes down the line where they kind of do that Ren and Stimpy thing, where it's like a still shot and it's close up and it's very detailed, and kind of gross looking, which I hated Ren and Stimpy for that reason. I'm not a fan. They would use that here to a degree, but I think the better parts of the episode were where they didn't do that, but they had the roaches everywhere, and it was just all over people, and it was creepy without being gross, which I truly appreciated.
With the exception of the scene where the guy bites the hot dog and the roaches come out of his mouth. I don't care how many times I see that. I never get used to that shot.
Yeah, that was gross. I'll give you that one.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I was going to be able to take the rest of the episode after that. I'm like, oh, thank God they're not doing that anymore.
Yeah, it's like, okay. It's like, that just ruined Quick Trip hot dogs for me for a little bit.
Now, what did you think of the second half of this with these 3 escaped convicts who are repeatedly beaten by the girls who then fashion themselves new identities when they find grown-up-sized Powerpuff costumes in the Townsville jail? What did you think of it?
Again, that is a story that has been done several times where the villains decide to impersonate the heroes and basically turn their name to mud. This has been done so many times. But what makes it still hilarious is the fact that it is blatantly obvious. It's like, oh my God, could it be more pathetic? I've seen cosplays of the Powerpuff Girls that look about like that. It's like, wow. In fact, I've actually seen a couple like, are you that bad at dressing as a Powerpuff Girl, or are you purposely going as that episode? Humor me here. But I do really like, again, it's a cliche, but they put a really unique twist on it, the fact that the entire town is buying this. Half the time they're not even disguising their voices. It's so hilarious. Oh, and then we get to the final fight scene, and Buttercup starts attacking Bubbles, and she's just like, Buttercup, it's me. It's like, seriously, even they couldn't tell, and that is part of what makes that episode so freaking hilarious. Like, they take the most obvious joke in the world, but they play it straight.
And that's the best part, is like they're not, too many shows I think today, they either have to hit you upside the head with a dead fish and how obvious they're making things, or they overplay things for laughs instead of trying to just play it straight and let the natural humor of the thing take over.
I think it's a good assessment. I like that.
All right. So
and I mean, of course, there's also the humor, the fact that they have the. There is the humor fact that they have the 3 uniforms in the jail. They're not even going to let's see, we can cut off our clothes here and put them on. No, the costumes are freaking waiting for them. I mean, come on, that's awesome.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Again, anytime you want to, if we're going and you want to go back to something, just go ahead and stop me. Otherwise, I'm going to keep it moving. Episode 3. Now here, and I actually just got a text from one of the hosts on the Radulich Broadcasting Network, Jesse Starcher, who was like, he was thinking about calling in and doing his him impression. What the hell is him?
Oh, God.
Him looks like the devil crossed with a crab crossed with a with a drag queen. What's going on here?
I take it somebody's never actually seen the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the movie, the Beatles animated movie. He is a parody of the leader of the Blue Meanies. The voice is identical.
Oh, really? Okay. See, I'm learning something new here. Tell me about this. I've never seen any of the Beatles movies, so this is all new to me.
This was that animated Beatles movie. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. I've seen it once on, I think it was on YouTube, and I remember watching going, okay. I mean, I'm one of the world's biggest Beatles fans. He was like, this is a little bizarre even for me. But yes, the leader of the Blue Meanies, his voice is identical to that slow, feminine voice. It really does just kind of make you just kind of freak you out a little bit when you hear it. It's like, that is just so bizarre. Now, I'm not going to lie, I don't quite get why they went with the whole super feminine thing with the clown makeup and the lace and the thigh-high boots. That part I never quite got. I guess I always just sort of figured that they were just trying to make him look as unsettling as possible. But then I'm like, well, wait a minute, so are we getting into gay bashing here? I don't think they're doing that. So I never really got it.
It's,
Yeah.
You know, look, I understand that that even Cartoon Network, you know, has sort of a mixed audience. You know, Cartoon, you know, Dexter's Laboratory, all of that. They weren't just going for kids. They were definitely trying to capture an adult audience too. It's kind of like, in that sense, it was kind of like SpongeBob. This was clearly meant for children, but there was enough adult humor to try to get a mixed audience.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing here. So I get that they're trying to find that line between entertaining for kids and, you know, funny entertaining for adults. You know, why else would they do half the shit they do in this series? You know, like reference things that you and I would get as adults, but kids are not going to get. On the other hand, I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, what? I'm even my kids were like, what in the hell is that supposed to be? You know, why? Like, they had no association with that, no understanding. They were just like, that's one creepy looking villain. Next episode. That was kind of it.
Well, I think he's supposed to obviously be the devil, but they didn't want to just call him Satan or the devil. I don't think they wanted to kind of push it towards one religious belief or not. But he is obviously supposed to be, you know, the epitome of pure evil. So I guess I was always figuring, I was like, okay, so we have Satan, who sounds like the leader of the Blue Meanies, with clown makeup. Or not even clown makeup, like maybe even just drag makeup. Yeah, it's like, is that clown or is it just, like, really like his blush?
Like, I'm looking at a picture that Jesse posted on the link to the show, and, I mean, like, yeah, it looks like the devil with crab hands and drag. You know, I get a very Rocky Horror Picture Show vibe from this. I'm expecting
maybe that's what they were going for. Maybe that's what they're going for. Maybe it's the Blue Meanie meets Dr. Frankenstein. Actually, I think we may have just cracked this.
You know, I'm looking at this thing, and I'm waiting for the character to just break out into I'm just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. And it would fit. It absolutely fits. All right. Later on in the series, where they do the bit where the Gangrene Gang are pranking the other villains, and and I don't want to get too far ahead, but the Powerpuff Girls was, you know, him taking a bath, and they just barge in, and he's sort of looking like, yeah. It was a laugh out loud moment for me. All right, and then our second half here, we have, I thought it was a cute premise, not a huge, these are villains I did not need to see again, the Amoeba Boys.
I should point out that there were 2 pilot episodes done for when they did What a Cartoon before the show actually got greenlit. And the 2 villains, one was Fuzzy Lumpkins and the other one was the Amoeba Boys. So these were these were the villains that they originally came up with. And the Amoeba Boys always just struck me as kind of weird, but I could kind of see it a little bit. Well, there's a scene in from The Watchmen where the Silk Spectre and Night Owl are talking, and they talk about a guy who wanted to be a villain and who would chase the Watchmen around, like, you know, it's like, punish me, come on, chase me, punish me or something, and they never really got into it. And I think that's almost a parody of how some people seek fame just by being villains. I mean, think about how many times somebody has, you know, said they were the master villain of a crime and they weren't. How many people have come forth in years to claim to be the Zodiac killer?
How many groups take credit for a terrorist act when they're not the ones that did it?
Yeah, I think this is almost a parody of the fact that it's like, yes, there are people who do that, and these are just the most pathetic examples. You know, these guys do not get it, and they're just, it's like they think that being villains will make them high celebrities, essentially, but they are as low on the totem pole as it could get.
I wish they had been more 1920s gangster.
Well, that's definitely what their voices are, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I wanted more of that. Though I thought the premise was cute. A virus breaks out, everyone is sick, and towards the end, like they're having this fight, and like they're all like just falling down and everything. Like I said, it was a cute concept.
Yeah, again, these guys, they don't want to be villains because they're evil. They really think that there's a glamour to the lifestyle. The fact that the Powerpuff Girls are too sick to even throw a punch, they don't care. They're just honored to be a part of it. They're like, yes, the Powerpuff Girls are paying attention to us. Yes, this is what we want. We don't care that you can't hurt us. We'll go along with it.
Now, my favorite episode, I think, of the entire season is the next one. Episode 4, we have Butter Crush. This is where we meet the Gangrene Gang. We have one guy who looks like a snake. We have the short one. We have the leader who looks all cool with his vest. We have the big guy. And here now up to this point, we're 4 episodes in, and you definitely get a lot of personality from Bubbles. I think of the 3 girls, a lot of the two girls that I think get the most personality as far the most focus are Blossom, who's the leader, and then Bubbles, who tends to provide a lot of the comedy. She also provides some of the tension, especially in the Him episode. You don't get a lot from Buttercup in the first 3 episodes. This is Buttercup's episode, and they really do play into the fact that she's the surly one of the 3, and of course she gets infatuated with the leader of the Gangrene Gang to the point where she allows herself to get manipulated by him, which I really enjoyed this. I got a kick out of this episode.
Yeah, I agree. This was a really good episode, and it was a little bit of it was a pretty good way to kind of explore Buttercup's identity. But what I find weird is that this is the first one where we see Buttercup getting a crush, and of course it's a crush on a bad boy. But in later seasons and episodes, this never comes up again. Even when the other girls talk about, oh, he's cute or something, Buttercup never really seems to be interested in that kind of thing. So I thought this was kind of weird that it's like, okay, so she gets a crush, but then she never gets a crush again. What the hell? So,
did you also find it weird that she barely talks in this episode?
Actually, no, I don't. I thought this was actually a really good way to help explore her character a little bit through just motion. I thought that was actually kind of clever.
Okay. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of longing and a lot of longing looks. Even in it's sort of a crude animation, they did a really good job of animating her, in that cross-legged kind of, shy, but but still interested, sort of posing that that she does. Like you definitely, it is definitely clear what they're going for and how she's animated in this episode. I just thought it was weird that she already wasn't the talkative character. She's the toughie of the 3, and and finally she gets all of this focus, and yet she still doesn't talk. And though I did enjoy where they were dancing to the loud rock and roll music. Now it's used again to cover up something else that's happening at the time. I believe they were throwing the other 2 girls into one of the garbage machines. But but as somebody who does a metal podcast, I enjoyed that them dancing to heavy metal.
Yeah. No, that is a really good episode, and I really enjoy it too. But again, I do like that they keep Buttercup mostly silent through it. I think that was a really cool way to just show off her character without having her talk all the time. It's a very subtle effect that they don't do that much in animation nowadays.
No, I would absolutely agree with you. A lot of animation is very loud, and it feels like everything is screaming at the screen, screaming at the audience. So I will give you this.
Mm-hmm.
This was different and very interesting. And then we come over to Fuzzy Logic. Yes. My other favorite villain in this entire first season, Fuzzy Lumpkin. A man after my own heart. A man picking his banjo, yelling, "Get off my lawn." This I enjoy. Now, and this was one where you actually spent a lot of time with Fuzzy Lumpkins chasing the squirrel, and not as much time with the Powerpuff Girls. I mean, this is a slow burn for for a half of a short episode. It takes a while before we get to the Powerpuff Girls. But I got a kick out of this character. I enjoy, and every time he shows up later on in the season, I love the fact that he's not so much as a villain as he is just a grumpy old man, basically. And if no one bothered him, he wouldn't bother anyone else.
Pretty much. First of all, I should also point out that Fuzzy Lumpkins is voiced by Jim Cummings, who is a god amongst voice actors. He is one of the best voice actors in the business, and I do love his Fuzzy Lumpkins voice. It is so hilarious.
What would people know him from?
Darkwing Duck.
Oh,
he's Darkwing Duck. He is
okay.
He was Darkwing Duck. Yeah, he is the new voice of Winnie the Pooh. He did Ray from the Princess and the Frog. Struggling for the name of the movie there for a second. And no, he's amazing. He's a really prolific voice actor. So I love that they got him to do the voice of Fuzzy Lumpkins.
Oh, very good.
And I did kind of laugh a little bit looking back on it because this is the first episode where we get Bubbles' power of speaking to squirrels.
Yes. They call her out on that. She's like, "What is she doing? She's talking to squirrels again."
But it is confirmed in the later episodes that is one of her superpowers. She actually can speak to squirrels. I don't know why that's one of her things.
Is it just squirrels, or can she just talk to animals?
Actually, that's a weird thing. They show that she can speak a few other languages, including Spanish, but we never see her talking to any other animals. I mean, I am going to do a little shout out here. There's a hilarious episode of My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic where Tara Strong, who voices Bubbles, also voices the lead character, Twilight Sparkle, on that show. And there's an episode where a squirrel comes out and starts chattering like crazy, and one of the characters goes, "What is he saying?" And Twilight goes, "Do I look like I speak squirrel?" And I just kind of lost it. Tara was like, "Oh, thank you." So a nice little shout out to Tara's previous incarnation. That's awesome.
We were big fans of Friendship is Magic for a long time. I just took my kids to go see the Smurfs over the weekend, and they ran a trailer for the My Little Pony movie coming out this October. My daughter was practically doing cartwheels in the theater when she saw that. She was very excited. So yes, I will.
I'm a fan of Friendship is Magic too, and I'm looking forward to seeing it as well. But that is not the cartoon we're talking about. I just had to do that cute little shout out there because I love that little tie-in.
Now, episode 5, and it was funny, when I was doing some research on this show, it said one of the things that Powerpuff Girls are known for are parodies of other things, and in this one we get the Star Wars parody. Now, this is a good one too, and I enjoyed this villain, the Boogeyman.
I love this episode because visually it is one of the best. I love the designs of all of the monsters. I love all the ties into the disco era. You just see all these monsters wearing 70s style clothes and hair, and it is freaking hilarious. I kind of see that we're seeing a little early groundwork for Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, which Craig McCracken would later go on to create. And I think that I looked at he's going to see what's with some designs here. Yeah, I think this is kind of a little test run for him.
Yeah, this was a good episode. Visually, it was very interesting. I wish they had brought the Boogeyman back later. This was one of those villains where by the time they actually got to the boogeyman and him and his, strolling around Townsville, I feel like, just because of the limitations of time, by the time we got to the boogeyman, he was defeated just as quickly, and then you never see him again. Because that whole Star Wars sequence where they do the imitation of the Death Star, the attack on the Death Star sequence, which I think is hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It took time away from the boogeyman himself, and then, like I said, at least in season 1, you never see him again. I'm like, what a great character. See, this was an example of a character I wish we got more of later on.
Yeah, actually, I have to agree. Not to mention, the idea of the boogeyman is such a, even though, this is a different version of it, the boogeyman is an iconic figure and one that constantly does pop up tormenting children. I think it would have been cool to show him come back. There's an episode in, oh, God, I don't even remember what season it is, where him essentially goes into the girls' dreams to give them horrible nightmares. And I remember thinking, this would have been perfect. Like, do a team up with him and the boogeyman, something like that. It would have been great.
Yep. And there's so many, and just the fact that they made the boogeyman like a disco character. There was so much more they could have done with that. Just different stories they could have done with it. And I'm always a fan of any time that they use, they put, music as part of the character's identity. So, it's just a lost opportunity there. And then the second half here, and I'll let you talk about this because this was one of those ones where I don't think I was paying very close attention. We have Abracadabra with Al Lujan, the old-time Townsville musician, pulling off his greatest magical stunt when he comes back from the dead as zombie Abracadabra. All right.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie.
This one's all yours.
I was not a fan of that episode. Now, visually, it's really well done. I actually really like the scene where the coffin breaks open, the hand comes out, and he waves it, and the dead roses appear in his hand. That was genuinely creepy, and I appreciated it. And I don't know. I mean, there is something to be said about putting in zombies for your fight scenes. And, obviously they were going to finally do a zombie fight with the PowerPuff Girls. But, I don't know. The ending was just obviously, I know the girls weren't going to get killed. I knew they were going to, get their comeuppance. But then all of a sudden it's like, aha, you thought Illusion had it. But no, the PowerPuff Girls were doing it the whole time. And it's a secret how they did it. It's like, wow, you guys... It's like you guys either wrote yourself into a corner or you had this idea for an ending and you just wrote an episode around it. But it just seems weird how. Now I will admit that I do like that the girl who accidentally kills Al Lujan, for lack of better words, looks just like the Powerpuff Girls. I thought that was a cute little tie-in. He would look at it and he'd think, oh, you look like the child who did this to me. And that was actually kind of a cool little tie-in. But, yeah, it was a very weak episode. The ending was just, okay, sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah, this was not one of the stronger ones. It's definitely not one that I paid a tremendous amount of attention to. Now this next one, episode 6, Telephonies. Definitely one of my favorite ones. First of all, I find the Gangrene Gang to be hilarious. They are amusing to me. But I like the fact that not every episode, despite the sort of recycling of villains, the show isn't particularly formulaic. They're willing to experiment with different ideas, different interpretations of the show, and what they can do with it. They're also not afraid to take the focus off the Powerpuff Girls and put it onto something, and put it onto the villains, which I really like here. Mm-hmm. So you have, in this one, you have the Gangrene Gang who are pranking the other villains. They're pranking the Powerpuff Girls, sending them to attack the other villains who aren't doing anything. And I did get, you always get this impression, like if you ever watch, the Super Friends or whatever, the villains are always in the middle of a meeting somewhere. Like, they're always doing villainy. They never have a day off.
Mm-hmm.
And in this episode, what makes it funny is that Fuzzy doesn't do anything anyway, but Mojo Jojo and him are both not doing anything at the time. I think Mojo Jojo
they're like, well,
paper. Go ahead.
Yeah, and him's working out, and they're like, no, I wasn't committing anything evil today. Not to mention this plays into a lot of scenes in later episodes where we see the villains. Well, the villains are citizens of Townsville. It's like, we are citizens, evil citizens, but citizens nonetheless. And he's right. And there are so many episodes and things where we see them just doing random stuff in Townsville, and if they're not destroying anything, they're not getting arrested. So, and it's just kind of funny. It's like, no, we're not doing anything evil today. It's like, so today we get the day off. You don't get to beat us up. And no, I do like it what you're talking about, how every time in those classic cartoons they cut to the villains. The villains are obviously doing something evil. This time, no, they're just relaxing.
I still get a kick. I laugh every time I think about it when they barge in on him and him just, hello, yes, in that creepy ass voice of his. And then at the end,
shorts to boot.
I got a kick out of the ending where, because at the end of every episode they do the bit where, and then they were saved by the Powerpuff Girls, and this one's like, and they were saved by Mojo Jojo, Fuzzy Lumpkins, and him. And they show the graphic of all three of them as they beat the piss out of the Green Gang.
Yeah, I also just really like the ending where the mayor finally comes back to the office. He sees them all fighting. He calls the girls, and the girls are finally like, you know what? We've had it. Not believing you. Hang up the phone. And when it calls again, they vaporize the phone. They're like, it's like, screw you, mayor. Oh, my God. I love that. You just kind of love what the mayor's got to be thinking. He's like, why don't they believe? Oh, my God. That is so hilarious.
That's also a running gag with season 1 is anytime Bubbles answers the phone, she does it poorly. She's like... Mm-hmm. Every time she picks up the phone, she's like, hello, okay, bye, and then she just doesn't address the issue at all, and Blossom always has to take the phone from her. I like that's a running gag throughout 13 episodes. Whenever, they don't do it every episode, but when they do it, it's the same gag, which I find funny.
Yeah, but I'm not going to lie, the first time they did it, that's going back to the Roach Coach episode, I didn't really get it. Like, was she playing a game, or is she, like, stupid? It's like, okay, why are you doing that? It's like, give us a reason.
I think she's Bubbles. She wasn't putting a lot of thought into it at the time. She was, just sort of existing in a state of zen. that's
that is true. The first season, they really hadn't developed the characters that much, and I think they were just kind of experimenting with what they were doing. It was later seasons we got a better idea of exactly who each of the girls were. So, yeah, I can buy that.
And the second half here, we have Tough Love. Everyone in Townsville loves the Powerpuff Girls. But the citizens have a sudden change of heart when him sends out an evil gas that turns the entire town angry and hate their favorite superheroines. The girls must fight the ones they love to get them back to normal. Any thoughts on this one?
That's actually one of my favorite episodes. First of all, it's a really clever idea. I love how some of the people react to them. I freaking love when they go to the class and, it's like, Miss Keene, Billy threw something at me. And she goes, yeah, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be throwing apples. They're harder. And everyone just starts pitching crap at them. The little subtle touch that the Powerpuff hotline phone is now frowning angrily. That was super cute. I love that. And yeah, it's just and then we also get a reoccurrence, or the first of another meme, the pickle jar that the mayor can't open it. This would be referenced so many times. In fact, later episodes, pickles kind of become the mayor's main identity. He is obsessed with pickles. They're his favorite food. He eats them like crazy. So this is just kind of the first time we actually see Mayor and pickles.
All right. Episode 7, called Major Competition. There's a new man in town, Major Man. an impossibly perfect superhero who cuts in on the girls' turf. Unfortunately, Major Man isn't as perfect as he's supposed to be as the girls investigate until he reveals the sham in the midst of being crushed by a monster. I have no recollection of this episode. I have a vague recollection of the character, Major Man, and then the details escape me here.
Again, this is another storyline that's been done several times before. I love the voice actor. I believe that is Jeff Bennett doing the voice of Major Man. Most would probably recognize him as the voice of Dexter's dad from Dexter's Laboratory. It's virtually the same voice, except with like a whole lot more bravado thrown in. I love the ending scene that it turns out the monster was on their side. I thought that was so funny. Like, I even just get a kick of how quickly the entire town turns on the Powerpuff Girls. Even the professor just kind of turns on them. Again, this has been done before in other storylines, but it's handled really funny. You know, I love that Major Man is a lot more of the typical superhero that we would see. We do see that he does have superpowers. You know, he clearly does have flight and a handful of others. So he probably could be a real superhero if he tried. He's just taking the shortcut to getting noticed a lot faster.
Okay.
Oh, and I love the little song that they throw in the beginning. That was awesome.
That I do remember. Now, the second half of this, we have Mr. Mojo's Rising. We have the origin of Mojo Jojo. When Mojo Jojo kidnaps the professor, it's a blast from the past, a blast of Chemical X, that is. After Mojo Jojo reveals he was once the professor's beloved assistant, the professor is coerced into giving Mojo the same powers as the girls. However, once empowered, the true evolution of the supervillain chimp comes to light, a fact Mojo Jojo will certainly regret, as he caused Professor to add Chemical X to the perfect little girl formula, creating the Powerpuff Girls. This was one where he ends up getting all of their powers, and it's just like a long fight scene between the three girls and Mojo Jojo, who they eventually end up defeating. That's about all I remember of this one.
I do like that this episode stays canon. It would have been so easy to just write this off and say, no, Mojo was lying or something. But even in the Powerpuff Girls movie, they have him as the laboratory assistant destroying everything, although that does kind of beg the question, why did the professor have him if he was destroying everything? I mean, I get, part of me wonders, like, was he just like a test monkey who got out of his cage or something, and the professor's like, screw it. But you look at the scenes in the movie where he's destroying the lab, and you're like, wait, he's the assistant? You know, like why the heck did he have him as an assistant? I think it would have been funnier to say, like, no, he was a lab experiment. You know, he was a test monkey who got out and just kind of ran amok.
That's a fun little concept there. I know it doesn't really connect, but it's just a weird association I have. Have you ever seen the Cannonball Run?
No, I have not.
So Tony Danza's car is being driven by a chimp. Now, that's the way it looks. They're actually driving from the back seat via video monitor, but you can't see them. All you see is the chimp in a butler's outfit driving the car. And I don't know. I have this now vision of Mojo Jojo driving Tony Danza around.
Well, I guess that's one way to look at it.
I'm going to let you talk about this next one. Like I said, this was the only one where I said I can't take this anymore, and I had to fast forward through this episode. Pace makes waste. After a few minutes, I'm going to gag talking about it. After a few minutes of watching and where they were going with this, I said, okay, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah, I agree. I still say I want to know who ate Pace as a kid, because apparently this was a thing. It is pretty gross. But I also do like that we're going back to the common superhero trope of the hero unintentionally makes the villain. There was something said for that. I also thought this was an interesting first real look at the students in the Powerpuff Girls class. Mitch Mitchelson, he's a reoccurring character. He shows up a lot. Elmer actually does come back in later seasons, not as the pace taster or pace eater or pace monster, whatever the heck they call him. But he comes back as a regular student, so I'm guessing they found a way to turn him back to normal.
Okay.
Trying to think. Yeah, I said that. There's not really much to say about the episode. It is really it is pretty disgusting. I agree.
And that's what kills me about it is they didn't do what I find to be a very annoying thing in modern cartoons is relying on gross very much through at least this first season of Powerpuff Girls. They kept it pretty clean for the most part. You know, even the stuff like we said about like Roach Coach, you know, stuff that's sort of borderline. They still managed to keep it pretty interesting to look at, and they didn't have to rely on, you know, cheap gags and grossness. And in this episode, they went all in. You know, it was a rarity, but they did it, and it's definitely not one that not my favorite, as my son would say. This was not my favorite episode.
True, but it's not traditional gross-out humor. When we think gross-out humor in cartoons, we think stuff like Ren and Stimpy with the, you know, bodily functions and stuff like that. This is, I think, as clean of gross-out humor as you could actually get.
I will definitely give you that.
Fact,
no one shaved anyone's tongue in this one.
Ugh, thanks for reminding me of that image. Yeah, I mean, it's gross, but it's not like, oh God, what the hell were they thinking? It's just uncomfortable. There is a difference in style.
They definitely got the ew factor in that one. Second half of the episode, we have Ice Soar, where Blossom discovers she has ice powers, which I thought was interesting. You know, she has a pink outfit on. Her name is Blossom, and they decide, let's give her ice powers. I mean, not to say that every character who has ice powers has to be blue, you know, or be associated with, you know, with ice. I just, you know, it wasn't what. It's an odd connection to make that we go from, you know, like here we have a character whose name is Blossom, and she's the leader of the pack, and that's ice powers. Sure, all right. Whatever you say.
Well, first of all, I wonder if they were actually planning on continuing to add new powers to the Powerpuff Girls. I don't really get why at the end Blossom says, well, I think I've used up all of my ice powers because I don't have it anymore. Because, yeah, later seasons, in fact, even like the first episode of season 2, she's showing off her ice powers. That becomes her signature move. So I don't think they suddenly said they weren't going to use it.
Maybe it's like Iron Fist. She has to save up her chi.
You know what? I actually haven't watched Iron Fist yet, mostly because everyone keeps saying how bad it is, and I just haven't been motivated to start watching it yet. And that's weird for me because Marvel and Netflix, I watch like crazy. But, yeah,
take it from me, the man who did a TV. Go ahead.
No, you can go ahead. Go ahead and finish that sentence.
We reviewed Iron Fist here on TV Party tonight when it came out, and it's not as bad as everyone would have you believe. My friend and I, who reviewed the show, found it to be quite good. In many cases, it was better. I thought it was better than the second season of Daredevil, which is very hit or miss for me. So, give it a chance. Won't you give Iron Fist a chance?
Again, I kind of wonder if they were intending to bring in more powers because the professor mentioned, you know, as you grow, you'll develop, you know, your own unique powers. And again, we get, you know, like Bubbles being able to speak Spanish. You know, I mentioned her, I was like, they do confirm that she can speak Spanish and she can speak squirrel. So I kind of wonder if that was sort of the intention, but they never really went with it after that. Bubbles does continue to be able to speak other language. Blossom does continue to have her ice powers, but they never really developed it any more than that. So,
did they ever give Buttercup any special powers?
Actually, there is an episode in either the last season or the second to last season where Buttercup realizes that every power that she has, her sisters have. And she starts getting really upset that she doesn't have a special power. And if you want the spoiler, I'll go and tell you how it ends. Buttercup discovers she's the only she does kind of have a special ability. she's the only person in all of Townsville who can curl her tongue. And everyone's like, that's not a real power. She goes, yeah, but you can't do it, and you can't do it. So, I don't know, I always thought that was kind of funny. But, yeah, Buttercup doesn't really have her own unique power. Yeah.
That's really funny. All right. Episode 9, Bubble Vicious. Here we have a Bubbles who is annoyed with the way people are treating her, and she decides that she's hardcore, which made me giggle because hardcore has a completely different meaning for me. When I think of hardcore, I think of hardcore punk. I think of guys, picking up chains in the mosh pit. So I enjoyed the use of the phrase hardcore, the word hardcore in this episode. It's like, I'm not soft, I'm hardcore. And she's just knocking the shit out of people.
I personally really love this episode for one particular reason. Again, I've talked about Tara Strong as the voice of Bubbles. Tara Strong is a very prolific voice actor. She's one of my favorites. She's not only Twilight Sparkle, she's also Timmy Turner from Fairly Odd Parents. She's Raven in Teen Titans and Teen Titans Go. Please don't make me ever talk about that. She has a really good career, and I love that she still maintains that they're very cute, high-pitched voice, but she sounds so aggressive, and it is so hilarious. I just love how, just to the total nth degree, she takes it. That scene where she knocks out Blossom while they're playing tag, like, I just beat myself, little Bubba. She's, oh my gosh, like I just can imagine her, like having an embolism burst from all of this, but I love it.
It's a very fun episode. I mean, again, they really do, I think, focus the most in terms of developing character on Bubbles in this first season. I mean, I can't, she gets, this is the second or third episode that really revolves around her. You have the third one, because you had the one with him, with the octopus. You had this one, and then there was the other one we were talking about. Whereas, a lot of the episode, the focus is Blossom because she sort of pushes the action, and then the only one that really focuses on Buttercup is the gangrene one. So, it's fun, but Bubbles is also an easy character to do stuff with. And yeah, Tara Strong does a phenomenal job of voicing her.
Mm-hmm. I should actually point out there's a video on YouTube. For those who frequent Comic-Cons, you've probably heard of this, called the Talking Tunes panel, where voice actors will do script reads as characters that they've played in the past. There is a video out there. I'll actually post it later. I'll send it to you later if you want to share it on your wall, of Tara Reid with a couple other voice actors, Jess Harnell, Rob Paulson, Kevin Conroy, and a couple of others, and they're reading the script to the first Star Wars movie, Episode 4. And they keep switching through the voices and having them do different characters, but the very first one that Tara Strong does is they have her read the lines for Darth Vader as Bubbles. And it is the greatest thing ever. Again, it's a total, she's channeling the Bubble of, it's like find the pens. It's like, and bring me the passages. I want them alive. And oh God, I lose it every time I watch it.
That sounds really funny.
Yeah, again, if you want, I will send you the link to the video, and if you want to post it on your wall so you can share it with your fans, it is so funny.
I can't see how I could avoid it at this point. This has got to happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, heck, we've got, again, Rob Paulson and Jess Harnell, who many people know as the voice of Yakko and Wacko from Animaniacs, doing their voices. John DiMaggio voices Bender. Oh, again, it's freaking awesome.
That sounds great. All right,
mm-hmm.
As we start to close in on the end of the season, we have episode 10, Catmandu and Impeach Fuzz. Catmandu, Bubbles saves a singing innocent little cat from the clutches of an evil villain. And when the ghost discovers it's actually the cat who is evil, they must save the professor from becoming the perfect victim. Catmandu. What do you think of this one?
Well, actually, a little interesting drawback to what we were just talking about. That's Mark Hamill doing the voice of the cat.
Oh, good old Joker himself, huh? Outstanding.
Yeah. Anyone who studies voice acting, you know, Mark Hamill is a legend in the business. And, yeah, he does villains. It's hilarious that his most iconic role is one of the greatest heroes in cinematic history, but he does voiceovers for villains so well. He just really knows how to play with it. And I really did like that. I think it's part of it. I think is a little callback to Blofeld, the James Bond villain with the cat. So I thought that was, I at least when I first saw it, I thought that's what they were doing. I was like, oh God, Blofeld came to Townsville. Who knew?
And on the second side of this, we're back to Fuzzy Lumpkins again, who decides he's going to be mayor.
Actually, I really love that he doesn't decide he's going to be mayor. Basically, he just kind of wakes up like, oh, people wanted me instead of the mayor. That's awesome. And there are so many freaking Trump jokes that you can make with this episode. I'm not even going to bother.
What I liked about this was, you know, and I've seen this in other cartoons where they have like a mayor figure, going all the way back to like Batman 66. You know, the mayor can't do anything. He's just completely dependent on Batman. You know, and that is a trope where, you know, the mayor is a sissy, the mayor is completely dependent on the hero. You don't even know why there's a mayor there. And I think in some cases that, you know, in the earlier this year, Jesse Starcher and I reviewed the Batman 66 comic, and at some point Batman even says, I don't even understand why you're the mayor. He's like, you don't do anything. And he just declares himself mayor. You know what? Actually, I take that back. It wasn't Batman. It was the Return of the Caped Crusader animated movie, which is the Batman '66 version. With the second half of that movie is Batman actually becomes evil, but in doing so, he calls him out on a very real thing. The mayor is completely ineffectual. What I liked about Impeach Fuzz is that they gave the mayor a backbone. You know, he's played for laughs in a lot of the series and a lot of the first season, but in this one, you know, they actually gave him something to do and a reason to not hate this character and think he's completely useless, which I enjoyed.
True, but unfortunately, they do forget that he has a backbone pretty quickly. This is one of the few episodes where the mayor has a bit more of an identity, does stand up for what he believes in. You know, he needs the proper motivation, aka his hat. And I'm not going to lie, I do love the fact that Sarah Bellum, who of course is designed so sultry with like that perfect hourglass figure, and Fuzzy dresses her in Daisy Dukes and a crop top. Just like, yeah, like the little kids are not going to get the humor behind that.
I was amused. All right. Episode 11 here. We have Just Another Manic Mojo. I believe this is the one where he goes into the bit about I don't have any eggs, and he's narrating his entire morning. And at some point, they do a bit where they lose a baseball in his house. I was, again, another side of Mojo Jojo, a character I really enjoy in the first place. So that was a big thrill of this episode, just to sort of see him in a different light, see the girls interacting with him differently than just, you know, adversaries. So it was amusing to me.
I agree, but unfortunately this is an episode that I don't think has a lot of replay value. It's funny, like, the first couple of times you watch it, but the humor does not last that long, in my opinion. You know, just the fact that, again, it's like you're laughing at how he repeats everything. You're laughing at, you know, him being stuck with all the pedestrians trying to wait to cross the street. But, again, it's just not as funny the next couple of times you watch it. You know, I do like that he's trying to liquefy the girls, and they won't hold still, and Bubbles keeps trying to go and touch the damn vase. That's hilarious. Like, don't touch anything, especially this, especially that.
Now, this next one with the mime I thought was interesting. We have Rainbow the Clown, but due to an accidental bleach spill, turns into the malevolent Mr. Mime. And it just, I don't know if you remember the old Robert Townsend special, Robert Townsend and, oh gosh, it was like, not his 40 Thieves, but like Robert Townsend and his partners in crime. And they did a bit where, like an old Western, and it's black and white, and like Ted Turner just wanders on screen and sprinkles dust. And it's like, it's Ted Turner. We've been colorized. This is the reverse of that. But that's what it reminded me of. And I like the concept of a villain who's just robbing color from things, making everything. Now, I said black and white. My kids made sure to remind me that it was black, white, and gray.
Yeah.
And the other thing I got a kick out of was they returned the color to things by playing music. And I almost went with that as tonight's graphic for the show. And I always put up a pretty little picture to go with every show. And a lot of the clip art that I was able to find to use had them playing instruments. And I was like, and I dug it. I dug the idea that they were, that what gives things color and life is music. That speaks right to my soul, Alexisssissississss. So I almost went with that as tonight's picture, but I was like, I'm going to use the actual graphic art with the logo. But that spoke to that absolutely spoke to me. I got a kick out of it.
I hate to say it, I don't really have much to talk about with that episode. I get what they were doing, but I just wasn't a huge fan of it. Maybe just because, well, first of all, I thought that Rainbow the Clown was ungodly annoying.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, that's Tom Kenny doing the voice. It's like, yeah, they clearly just told him to go off the rails.
I think also, just artistically, I enjoyed it. I like the use of color in the episode, and that might be a personal thing. But going from the extremely colorful to the black and white, and then using the music to restore the color, those are just all things that I think spoke to me personally. But yeah, if it doesn't grab you, that's also understandable. Now, these last two episodes, 12 and 13, were full 22-minute episodes, and these were interesting. And I have to bring up sort of a political thing here, because my wife made a point of this. So let's talk about the Rowdy Rough Boys for a moment. They are Brick, Boomer, and Butch, and they are created by Mojo Jojo in a toilet. Okay. Now this is roughly 5 minutes of setup and 17 minutes of fighting. Okay. It's just the Rowdy Rough Boys and the Powerpuff Girls going at it. It's a 6-man tag. It's the fire and the fury, and it's good stuff. And I'm just gonna read this, and I want your honest to God reaction to this sentence, because I remember watching this with my wife and her having a very, very specific reaction to this. When regular fighting does not work against the boys, the girls have to use their feminine wiles to seal a victory. Yes, they have to use their feminine wiles, the kissing and hugging and batting of the eyes to win the day against the Rowdy Rough Boys. And I believe it's when they kiss the Rowdy Rough Boys and then they explode or something like that. I'm just going to shut up and let you react to this.
First of all, again, inevitable plot line, but it is a genius plot line, because I can't remember what trope rule it is that if it exists, there is a version of it in the opposite gender. This is a fandom trope. If you just Google any character, and you will find any fictional character, and you will find that somebody has created a complete version of it in the opposite gender. So we knew that was coming. I love that the Powerpuff Girls are made of sugar spice and everything nice, and the Rowdy Rough Boys are made of snips, nails, and a puppy dog tail. Really nice callback to that classic nursery rhyme. I thought that was funny. And I don't really think it was feminine wiles so much because Miss Bellum's the one who comes and goes, girls, what do little boys hate more than anything? And I remember, being young, and boys thought girls had cooties, and girls were disgusting, and if a girl had a crush on you, that was just like, oh, God, that was the end of the world. And I don't think it's feminine wiles. I think it's a nice little callback to being at that age and little boys just like, ew, no, not girl germs. I thought that was actually pretty funny that was the thing that...
You do not find it somewhat insulting, the idea that the way to defeat the boys was by kissing them, by, they couldn't beat them with muscle, they couldn't beat them with fighting, so they had to use romance, love, affection.
Well, they didn't really use... Well, no, it wasn't love. It was a kiss. And again, I'm thinking back to when kids were that age. I remember little boys just being disgusted at any girl who would try to kiss them. It was just, ew, it was so gross. And I think that's a hilarious callback to the idea of what little kids are really like. They couldn't beat up the boys because they were created equally. They were just as strong. They had to find their weakness. And for boys that age, that would be a legitimate weakness. I thought that was hilarious. I even like the fact that when they're batting their eyes and looking all pretty, Buttercup still got her arms crossed. She's like, I'll do it, but I'm doing it under protest.
I enjoyed that as well. I think my wife's reaction to it she wasn't insulted by it or anything. It wasn't that harsh. She got the joke, but she was like, "Is this really the message? is this what we want to teach people? Is this okay?" Because we're watching it with a 6-year-old daughter and 3-year-old son. It's like, is this the message that we want them to see? She questioned it. She questioned whether or not that, and I totally get your argument here. I absolutely see where you're coming from. I think the idea of, in a fair fight where everything is equal, women can't win, so they have to come up with this other way of doing things. And of course, it has to be, kissing. She's like, yeah, I don't know if that's what I want. If that's a lesson I want my kids to learn from this. Now, granted, neither one of them picked up on it. I don't think either of my kids got the subtext of that particular Powerpuff Girls episode. Maybe the 6-year-old did. Who knows? But I did find it interesting that my wife questioned it. And my wife's not a serious feminist or anything else like that. I actually thought I was surprised she even picked up on any subtext at all. This is a woman who loves her trashy TV. But I thought it was worth mentioning.
Sorry for the quiet moment there. I get what you're saying. Like I said my piece. I think said my piece. Know what I'm saying. It's like, okay, I think we can move on.
All right, and episode 13. We get another 22-minute episode here. About a month after, almost 2 months after the last episode, the Rowdy Rough Boys. This is Uh-Oh Dynamo. And in this one, we have a giant fish balloon monster that comes out of the water. And this is just an ode to the old, Godzilla type of thing. We have a giant kaiju that's destroying the city. And in an interesting twist, you have the father who, last 12 episodes has allowed his daughter to go out and fight crime. It's not like he doesn't know what's happening. But in this one, he's convinced that the daughters need extra help. And initially, they are resistant to him and they're resistant to this idea, and they won't use the dynamo that he's created, the giant Jaeger that he's made for them. I'm using Pacific Rim terms here. But the fish ends up becoming too strong for them, too tough. So, they decide, they're going to take up their father's offer, and they get inside the Jaeger, and they fight the monster, and eventually they defeat the monster. But in doing so, and I thought this was And I thought this was the best part of the episode. They're like, you saved the town by destroying it. You know, the mayor who had been their biggest cheerleader, you know, has this realization. And I thought this was a brilliant use of setup and payoff. The whole first part of the episode is showing the breadth of Townsville. You know, how much stuff they've got and what a great town this is. And by the end of the episode, every single one of those things they showed at the beginning is destroyed. Which I got to kick out.
This was a really good episode. I thought some of the pacing was a little off during certain parts of it because clearly they really did need to stretch it out a bit. For example, the very scenes where the dynamo is rising from the backyard, they really stretched that out. But again, it is a classic homage. And that's something I always loved, is that any time you watch any movie with kaiju and Jaegers or anything like that, the city doesn't stand a chance. Yeah, we talked about that when we watched the Power Rangers. It's like, so how many abandoned factories does Angel Grove have that they can keep destroying the town like this on a weekly basis?
It's the old man.
So I thought that was.
You know what tells me about that? I don't know where you stand on this, and I don't want to go off too much on a tangent, but destroying the town to save it is an ongoing and favored trope in any sort of action presentation, movie, TV show, or whatever. Yet when it happened in Man of Steel, people condemned both Superman and the movie. It was like, wait a minute, this happens all the time. Why are we condemning Superman all of a sudden? You know, when at least, you know, my defense of that has always been, like, look, man, he attacked Zod, or rather Zod attacked him. He was doing his best at that, level best at that time. He'd only been Superman for like 20 minutes at this point. Give the poor guy a break. But it's like, we don't condemn anyone else, you know, in movies for destroying the town in order to save it. But everyone's got all, you know, like, oh, Superman doesn't really save anybody and he killed millions of people. This is literally the only time I've ever seen people get upset about that sort of thing. But I digress.
Well, there was also Captain America: Civil War, where they suddenly pointed out all the collateral damage that had been happening, and they blamed the Avengers for that.
I was going to say, and in the perfect world, Steve Rogers would have gotten up and started strangling Tony since he was the cause of most of it.
Yeah, I think in the How It Should Have Ended animated series, they poked fun at that, like, that was Tony's fault. We were just trying to clean up the mess. Not our fault.
Right. I said that in my review. I said, you know, as much as I enjoy a lot of Civil War, there are some glaring problems with it, not the least of which is that entire speech given by General Ross about how the Avengers have caused all these problems should have ended with Steve flipping the table over, going, 90% of what you just said is Tony's fault. Why are you getting on our case? Make him sign the thing.
No, I agree. But, yeah, I absolutely love it. And I do love the homages to the classic Japanese. The fact that the cartoon starts in Little Tokyo Townsville, which is essentially, well, it's obviously not Chinatown because it's supposed to be Japan, but I love it. And yeah, they just keep calling back to it. That is so funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will also credit the animation is really, really good. It's really fun.
Mm-hmm.
It is a little weird that Professor Utonio has suddenly decided he's going to be the overprotective dad. I kind of always just assumed that this was the first time he was that close to watching the girls fight a monster. That in the past he's always said, "Okay, girls, the mayor just called, Townsville's in trouble," and then the girls go, they fight, they come back. I guess I always just assumed this was his first time really seeing the girls in a full-blown fight sequence with a monster.
So let's take this back to where we started then. Now, I have not seen the reboot. We've gone through all 13 episodes now of the first season. You wanted to do a quick comparison to the reboot. So what are some of your thoughts here?
The biggest problem I have with I believe I wrote this once after I watched a couple episodes. I said, the reboot is essentially sugar-free cookies. They're trying way too hard to remind you of what it could have been, but it's obvious that there are parts that are just not going to work. The reboot takes so many things, and they keep saying, we're going to be different, and this is a different iteration, but so many parts of it are virtually identical. Several of the characters even have the same voice actors, and many of them have the same designs, although they go with that whole rounded design that we've been seeing in a lot of animation lately, where apparently straight angles no longer exist. No, sorry, Bruce Timm. Doesn't make sense. They was like, okay, if you want it to be different, you make it different. That's fine. If you want it to be the same, make it the same. That's fine. But to straddle like they do, it makes no sense. They don't even really change the characters, which is the weirdest thing about the Powerpuff Girls, because they do not have any of the original voice actors back. These are all new voice actresses who are clearly trying to sound like the originals. And that bugged the hell out of me. It's like, if you want them to sound like the originals, why didn't you go hire the originals?
Yeah, it sounds like there wasn't a lot of bravery with this the way you're describing it. Like they clearly want to, take advantage of what was a popular series back in 1998 to 2005, but they were afraid to take any chances with it or update it anyway, while at the same time wanting to stand out and be different. Like, oh look, we're not just restarting the same series, and we're doing something different with it, and then not really, because there was no they didn't take any chances with it. Which I find is something we talk about all the time on our various shows, about how there's not, when these executives greenlight projects, they do so, and in some cases I can see why. They do so with this air of caution, like they're like, hey, look, we have a formula for what works here. I know we're trying to be different, but try to be different in a way that's familiar. All right. So that can be a problem.
Yeah, I hate to compare it to this, because I also can't stand this other show. But if you look at the reboot of Teen Titans with Teen Titans Go, I cannot stand Teen Titans Go. I think it is a horrible series, but to its credit, they took it in a completely different direction than the original Teen Titans. They don't straddle the fence. They said, we're going to take the Teen Titans premise and make it into a comedy, and they did. They have little callbacks to the original series, but it is clear that they have a vision and they're sticking to it. I feel like I just had some points deducted. I feel like I just had some points deducted from my coolness factor for defending Teen Titans Go. God help me.
My daughter's watched that a couple of times, and whenever she's watched it, she's enjoyed it. I find Teen Titans Go to be irritating, quite frankly. So, and you generally have a cheerleader for just about anything superheroes, but I as many times as I've sat and watched Teen Titans Go with my daughter, I'm just kind of, I don't know if I'm going to do this. However, I did just watch the adult animated movie Teen Titans: The Judas Contract, and I had intended to watch that by myself, and my daughter was playing with Legos at the time, and she, the TV is quite the attraction. So she quit playing Legos and she snuggled up next to me and watched the thing. And poor girl, I don't know if you know much about the Judas Contract storyline or if you've seen this movie, but it has a very tragic ending.
I haven't.
And both.
Yeah, I haven't seen the movie yet, but I do know the storyline. I've read that comic. Not to mention, I've watched the original Teen Titans series, and they did their own version of the Judas Contract with Tara and Deathstroke. So I know what tone is like. Oh, that poor child.
Yeah, all she kept telling me, she was like, I'm so sad for Beast Boy. He loved her. Oh, fucking poor kid. So, and with that said, just my overall feelings on, as we wrap up here, my overall feelings for the first season of Powerpuff Girls is it's fun. we talk about a lot of serious TV here on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, a lot of the superhero stuff. It's fun to just, to take a weekend and watch something as entertaining and silly as the Powerpuff Girls. And I have to say, of all the nonsense I think that Cartoon Network has put on over the years, there was a lot of pride and care that got put into this series. And, I would have to give the first season a solid, I would give it a solid A-. They really, outside of the couple that we talked about, which may have been more of a personal taste sort of thing, I would say they 13 episodes of solid entertainment. I'll give you the last word here.
I definitely agree with that. There is a lot of signs of experimentation, again, throwing stuff against the wall, seeing what's stuck, and you can kind of get that, but you get that out of any first season of any show. I really like that they did stay consistent with a lot of things. We saw a lot of, I mentioned this a couple times, a lot of the recurring jokes that would come more and more of the series. They were not afraid to try new things and to stick to them, and I love that. And I give a lot of credit to the creators. Again, Craig McCracken, who is a brilliant animator, Gandhi Tartakovsky, who we know from Dexter's Laboratory and would go on to create, in my opinion, one of the greatest animated series of all time, Samurai Jack.
Never watched Samurai Jack. I've heard it's good, though.
Oh, my God, you poor human. I'm serious. Samurai Jack is in my opinion, the greatest cartoon ever. And for the record, if you ever want to talk about Samurai Jack, please call me. I really would love to talk about it.
I will throw it on the list. At this point, I'm just taking suggestions from people, and everything is going in the maybe pile. So I have now heard enough people tell me that Samurai Jack is something that I need to watch. So I've heard Samurai Jack, Invader Zim, and none of these things are things I was ever into as a kid. So we'll give them a shot as an adult. So I will keep you in mind for any future Samurai Jack shows.
Hey, Invader Zim is also an amazing show that I would love to talk about. And for the record, I didn't watch it when it first aired either. I didn't get into it until it was on DVD, and a friend of mine showed it to me. I was like, oh, my God, why have I not been watching this? But for the record,
I was
Invader Zim, we're going to have – so we talk Invader Zim, you're going to have to get Mr. Sean Comer involved in this.
Yeah, he's already told me that I'm that's why I mentioned it. He's already made it a point to say that at some point we're going to have to do an Invader Zim show, and I have to be a part of it. I was big into like the Animaniacs, and if I could ever find it anywhere, I would love to, because it only I think lasted one season. But Hysteria, I thought was the funniest show ever. This was the one that came on after Animaniacs that was actually like a parody of history. And it had the one like Bob Hope character that walked around going "Yes now," which I would do forever. I thought that was so
I hate to
great.
admit it, I never got a chance to watch Hysteria because it was always on Saturday mornings, and I never got up early enough to watch it. I watched Tiny Toon Adventures and Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain because those were on after school, so I could come home from school and watch them. I never got up early enough on Saturday mornings to watch a lot of those cartoons. Well, I did when I was little, but, then I get older and I realize, why am I doing this? I need sleep. So I want to see Hysteria. I really, really do. I just never had the chance.
My memories of that show had me stitches. But the other one, I actually own the DVDs for these, Pinky and the Brain. I remember one Christmas,
of course.
And my dad and I watched it, with mixed company in the house, and both of us are just in tears watching this thing, just laughing so hard we can't breathe. And like we have like relatives, and extended family over, and nobody can understand why we think this is the funniest thing ever. But nope, me and my father laughing our asses off, and and this wasn't like when I was a kid. This was a few years ago. I still find Pinky and the Brain to be some of the funniest TV I've ever captured on film. But with that said, I appreciate you coming on the show tonight. I'm going to let you go because I know you have a big trip planned. Go ahead and do your plugs real quick.
All right. Yes. I've mentioned this before. I run Honeysuckle Rose Creations. We're based out of Kansas City. the intersection of geek and chic. We make jewelry out of old game pieces. We have wire-wrap dice necklaces. We have our domino badges. We have our Scrabble tile barrettes, our bracelets made from Monopoly and Clue pieces. I'm actually not currently, I'm working on this when I get back. We're working on some new lines that are going to include Legos and Jenga blocks, which I'm really excited about. You can reach us on Facebook or on our website. I'm sorry, what?
No, keep going.
So you can reach us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, or we do have an Etsy store and a Handmade at Amazon store, or you can find us at honeysucklerosecreations.com.
All right.
Unfortunately, sorry. Because I was going to add, unfortunately, our online supply is not going to be that strong over the next 3 weeks because, again, I am going overseas. Got someone to help run the store while I'm gone, but custom orders and extra merchandise are going to be really not an option for a while. But things will pick back up when I am back in the country.
Okay. Well, I would love to have you back on for any one of my podcasts. I know you're my go-to animation person, so if you have a burning desire, something you want to talk about with me, let me know. We'll get it booked. When I get around to booking the second half of the year, I have some ideas for things that we talked about in mind. So, and I certainly would like to do another season of the Powerpuff Girls. Like to eventually finish that off. So, we hope to have you on again.
Absolutely.
All right.
Sorry again that I was just gonna and sorry again that I was a little late showing up because different time zones. I do apologize about that.
It happens. Listen, at least you made it on. We've had shows where the block-up radio wasn't working or people couldn't get on. So I'm just happy you made it on. All's well that ends well, I always say. I know you're also big into Disney animation, and there are some shows I've had in mind, dealing with some of the Disney stuff. So you and I can talk through Messenger, and we'll come up with as the year goes on, we'll come up with some other ideas to bring you back on. In the meantime, you have a safe trip. Enjoy Paris, and I want to thank you again for being on. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been TV Party Tonight. Tomorrow night is the Metal Hammer of Doom. We'll be discussing the new Life of Agony album, A Place Where There's No More Pain. We're going to go live a little bit later than normal, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, as I'll be out earlier in the evening with a friend in town. And then Friday, we've got On Trial. Sean Comer and I will be discussing the Jodie Foster movie Contact. He'll be prosecuting, I'll be defending. And I keep being told every time I say that, good luck defending that piece of shit. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. I've never seen Contact. I don't know how good or bad it is. So that's what we got in the tank this week. Next week is, we'll be looking at the Guardians of the Galaxy. On source material, we'll be reviewing it on Damn You Hollywood. Robert Cooper will be back on the Metal Hammer of Doom, and we'll be reviewing Vampire with Primeval Force. And then Sean's going to make me watch The Hunter from the Future, and we'll review that. So
you poor schmo.
Yeah. See, you give power to the people, and they hit you over the head with it. That's what happens. That's all right, though.
No, that's just what happens when you give power to Sean.
That's fair. Well, listen, there's been quite a number of people who have taken the opportunity to take Because You Made Me, and let's see if we can make a much the worst thing possible. So, seems to be a running gag. All right, with that said, folks, once again, thank you to Alexisssissississssss Hejna. She's been great. Had a lot of fun talking to Powerpuff Girls. We'll see you again. Be well, be safe, and behave.
Au revoir.